Hello my friends on YouTube. Today we're going to dive into the world of CSS Flexbox, which is a powerful layout system that allows you to create flexible and responsive designs very easily. So if you're a beginner or an experienced developer, this tutorial will help you understand the key concepts of Flexbox. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. Before we jump into the code, let's understand the main concepts behind Flexbox. Flexbox works with two main components, the Flex container and the Flex items. The Flex container is the parent element that holds the Flex items, and it also controls how the items are laid out inside of it. So here's the HTML code we're going to use, and we can see we have a div with the class Flex container, and inside that we have three child elements with the class item, which is going to be the Flex items. And then we have a CSS file where we just made some simple design to demonstrate Flexbox here. So let's say, for example, we have this code right here. So to create the Flex container, we need to set the display property of the parent container to Flex. So let's take a look at an example. So the Flex container, we're gonna just add display and then we say Flex. By setting display property of the Flex container to Flex, we enable the Flexbox layout for its children. Now let's move on to controlling the layout of these Flex items. Flex items can be positioned both horizontally and vertically within the Flex container. To control the layout, we use various properties. The first one is going to be the Flex direction, which is the property that determines the direction in which the Flex items are laid out. There are four possible values, which is row, row reverse, column, and column reverse. So let's see them in action. So if we start by saying Flex direction, row, this is the default behavior. If we change it to row reverse, we can see it's going backwards. And then we can also say column, which is going to make them stacked. And then we also have column reverse to make it reversed. Alright, so let's comment out this part. So the next one we have is the justify content property, which controls the alignment of Flex items along the main axis. And the main axis is determined by the Flex direction property. So to use the justify content, we say justify content, and we have the first one is going to be Flex start, and if we save that, it's just the default behavior. If we change this to center, it's gonna center the items inside the Flex container. If we say space between or space around one of these, so for example the space between, save it is gonna make space between them. And you can also play around and say, for example, space around to make space around them, which opens up a lot of opportunities for you to make really nice layouts. So if you combine justify content with the Flex directions, if we change the default behaviors of Flex direction to column, it's just gonna flip them and do it on the other side. So it's gonna be justify content space around in the column direction. So let's just comment out this part and we're gonna continue with the next property. Alright, so before we move on to the next property, let's just add a height for this item. So we're gonna say height, for example, 150 pixels to make it a little bit shorter. So for justify content, let's just change it to center, which is the main axis, as you can see. So instead of them being so close to each other, we could add something called gap. For example, gap 10 pixels. Alright, so let's see about align items. If we type align items, with the align items property, we can control the alignment of Flex items along the cross axis. And the cross axis is the opposite of the main axis. So if we say center here, it's going to be centered in the cross axis. Alright, and we can also say Flex start, which is the default. And then we also can say Flex end to put it at the bottom. The next property we're going to talk about is the Flex wrap property, which determines whether the Flex item should wrap or remain in a single line. So if we go to our index and just duplicate one of these and then go back to CSS, we can see that our items are remaining in one single line. So we don't want them to be like that. We want the ones that is not fitting to wrap to a new line. So to make that possible, we can say Flex wrap, and the default is no wrap, so we can say no wrap. If we change this to wrap, it's gonna expand to a new line, which means that these ones are 150 pixels and the whole container is 800, so it cannot fit anymore, which goes to a new line, which is really good if you're going to build responsive layouts. So if we make it a lot smaller, look what happens. It expands to new lines to make it fit inside the container. So one powerful thing we could do is we can combine Flexbox with media queries to adjust the layout based on different screen sizes. So for example, on the breaking point 768 pixels, we want to say the flex container, we want to change the flex direction behavior to column instead of row. So if we save that and then we want to make the screen smaller, look what happens. It goes to column. And if you go to bigger screens, it's going to be a row. So now regarding each item, you could also apply the same things as you did on the flex container, but for a single item. For example, if you want to align a single item, you could say align self and center. Now if we save that, you can see all of them go center. But let's do like this. If you go to index and then we give one of these maybe 2, and then let's say remove that and target the class 2 and say align self center. Now all of them will stay at the beginning, but only this one is going to be center. You could also say align self flex end, which is going to put it on the bottom. And you could do this for all of them if you want it to look different on the desktop, or even add it down here if you wanted to have a different look on mobile. And lastly, you could also use the property order to order them how you want. So for example, now I added 1, 2, and 3 on the other 2 divs. And if you go back here, we can say the number 1 div is going to have order 2, which is going to put it in the second place. We can say the 2 one is going to be order 3. And then let's say 3 is going to be order 1. So now it's going to be 3, 1, 2. So you can change how things is going to be ordered even in your layouts. And this is just going to be the beginning of your career with Flexbox. You can do really crazy stuff with it, and I hope this video helped you out. So if you like this video, make sure to subscribe for more videos like this.